Have you ever wondered how the wisest man who ever lived, the king chosen by God to build his holy temple, could fall into ruin? How could one man manage the divine purity of God's house, and at the same time, a harem of 1,000 women with their foreign gods? This isn't just a story from the past. It's a terrifying mirror for the battle every single one of us faces, the struggle between our sacred calling and our worldly desires. We all feel that pull, don't we? The feeling that God has a plan for us, but the temptations of this world are constantly trying to lead us astray. Solomon's life holds the key to understanding this battle. But what if I told you the secret to both his incredible power and his tragic downfall was something deeper and far more shocking than just his wisdom or his women? What if the key was a dark, supernatural force that he commanded with a legendary artifact, a secret that has been buried for centuries? Today, we are pulling back the veil. We will explore the untold story of Solomon, and I promise you, what you are about to hear will change how you see the nature of power, temptation, and the spiritual war that rages around us. It's a fact that a huge number of people who are blessed by these videos haven't subscribed to the channel yet. If you believe God is leading you to uncover these deeper truths, please take a moment to click that subscribe button right now so you don't miss the powerful revelations we have coming. Now stay with me, because the secret we are about to reveal is crucial for your own spiritual walk. Let's begin. My friend, I want you to travel back with me. Let's leave this moment behind and stand together on a dusty hill overlooking Jerusalem. The year is 957 BC, and the sun is just beginning to wake, painting the sky in hues of orange and rose. Down below, the city is still draped in morning shadows, but one structure, one magnificent creation, catches the first rays of light and explodes in a blaze of glory. It's the temple, Solomon's masterpiece, a literal beacon of gold that seems to pull the sun from the horizon. You have to understand, this wasn't just another building. This was a statement, a testament to the power and presence of God on earth, built by a king whose name would become synonymous with a divine, almost supernatural wisdom. For 7 years, this project was Solomon's entire world, a divine obsession that consumed the resources of a nation. Picture it, over 180,000 men, hewers of stone, bearers of burdens, craftsmen of unparalleled skill, all working in concert to fulfill one man's vision. A vision so grand, so impossibly ambitious, that it blurred the lines between human achievement and supernatural intervention. This temple was the heart of the kingdom, the physical manifestation of God's covenant with his people and the ultimate display of Solomon's devotion, a devotion that would one day be tragically challenged by the secrets kept within his palace and the complexities of his famous harem. Now, let's zoom in a little closer and really grasp the sheer scale of this undertaking. We're talking about a cost that, in today's terms, would soar into the billions. The logistics alone were a miracle of organization, a testament to the incredible wisdom bestowed upon Solomon. Imagine the sight of massive caravans stretching for miles, transporting fragrant cedars all the way from the distant mountains of Lebanon. A gift from King Hiram of Tyre. These weren't just logs, they were the very bones of the sanctuary. Then picture the quarries, alive with the sound of men working tirelessly to hew and shape colossal blocks of stone, some weighing several tons. But here's the truly astonishing part, a detail that whispers of something beyond the ordinary, something supernatural. The Bible tells us in 1 Kings 6:7 that the temple was built of stone, quarried and prepared before it was brought to the site, so that no hammer, chisel, or any other iron tool was heard at the temple site while it was being built. Can you imagine that? A silent construction site of this magnitude. It was as if the very stones were willingly, peacefully settling into place. This wasn't just construction. It was an act of worship, a symphony of reverence orchestrated by Solomon's profound wisdom, a stark and holy contrast to the human dramas that would unfold later within his harem. Let's step inside, shall we? Prepare to have your breath taken away. As you pass between the two colossal bronze pillars at the entrance, named Jachin and Boaz, meaning he will establish, and in him is strength, you are immediately enveloped by an overwhelming sense of opulence and sanctity. And I mean overwhelming. There's virtually no stone visible on the inside. Solomon, in his wisdom, decreed that the interior of the temple be completely overlaid with pure gold. The floors, the walls, the ceilings, even the inner sanctuary, the Holy of Holies, all gleaming, shimmering gold. It was designed to be a reflection of heaven itself, a place so pure and radiant that it felt otherworldly, supernatural. Carved into the walls were intricate figures of cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers, all covered in that same brilliant gold. It was a sensory overload of divine artistry. This wasn't just wealth on display, it was a theological statement. Solomon understood that the dwelling place for the King of Kings had to be perfect, a place where the barrier between the earthly and the heavenly felt impossibly thin. The level of detail speaks to a wisdom that was clearly a gift from above, a focus on holiness that makes his later tolerance of pagan influences from his harem all the more tragic. Within the main hall, your eyes would be drawn to the two monumental cherubim, each standing 15 feet tall and carved from rich olive wood, also overlaid with gold. Their wings stretched out, spanning the entire width of the inner sanctuary, touching wall to wall and meeting in the center, protectively overshadowing the spot where the Ark of the Covenant would rest. This was the throne room of the unseen God, and Solomon spared no expense, no effort to make it worthy. Every single element, from the golden altar of incense to the 10 golden lampstands that illuminated the space, was crafted with a precision that borders on the supernatural. This sacred project was the cornerstone of his reign, the source of his legitimacy, and the proof of God's favor. It was the product of a singular focus, a king pouring all his God-given wisdom and resources into a single holy purpose. But even as this golden house was being built, other more complex structures were being planned in Solomon's heart and in his kingdom. Namely, the palace and the harem that would house 1,000 women, each bringing her own culture, her own gods, and her own challenges to the very foundation of faith this temple was meant to represent. So, as we stand here, soaking in the grandeur of this golden marvel, we see the absolute zenith of Solomon's reign. The temple was more than stone and gold. It was a symbol of a kingdom established in strength and guided by a supernatural wisdom. It was Solomon's declaration to the world and to himself that his rule was founded on the bedrock of God's presence. The pillars, Jachin and Boaz, weren't just architectural supports. They were a daily reminder for the king and the people. Our kingdom will be established, and in God is our strength. This is a powerful lesson for us, isn't it? That whatever we build in our lives, our families, our careers, our faith, must be built on that same foundation. Solomon had it all right here. He built the house of God before he even finished his own palace. He put God first. But as we'll soon see, the very wisdom that allowed him to erect this holy temple was about to be tested in the most profound ways, not on a battlefield, but within the perfumed and veiled corridors of his own palace, where a very different kind of life was beginning to take shape. Now, as magnificent as the outside of the temple was, the real power was in the life that pulsed within it. Imagine the scene long before the sun even thought about rising. The first sound isn't a rooster crowing, but the deep, resonant groan of massive bronze gates swinging open. This sound marked the start of a divine rhythm, a sacred symphony that played out every single day. The entire operation was a marvel of spiritual organization, a testament to the wisdom Solomon applied not just to architecture, but to worship itself. We're talking about 24 divisions of priests and Levites, a system so precise it ran like a celestial clock. Each group would serve its turn in the temple, ensuring that the presence of the Lord was honored without interruption, day and night. This wasn't a job. It was a supernatural calling, a constant, living prayer that rose from the heart of Jerusalem. It was a world of absolute order, dedicated to one God, a universe away from the multicultural complexities Solomon was beginning to cultivate in his harem. The tasks inside were performed with a kind of military precision, yet fueled by pure devotion. Every morning, the courtyards were ritually cleansed, washed and purified for the day's offerings. At specific moments, a hush would fall as the Levite choirs and musicians would fill the air with celestial music, their voices and instruments lifting praises to the heavens. You have to understand, nothing was left to chance. The animals brought for sacrifice were inspected with painstaking care, ensuring they were without blemish, perfect for the Lord, as instructed in Leviticus. This rigorous dedication teaches us something profound about our own worship, doesn't it? It challenges us to ask, am I giving God my best or just my leftovers? The life inside Solomon's temple was a constant, active pursuit of holiness, a model of the excellence God desires from us in our own spiritual walk. It was a system built on divine wisdom, meant to keep the nation pure. But beyond the public rituals, there was a whole city humming with activity behind the scenes. Think of the specialized artisans who made it all possible, the bakers who tirelessly prepared the 12 loaves of holy showbread each week, the perfumers who jealously guarded the secret sacred recipe for the incense, a fragrance so unique it was forbidden to be replicated for common use. Exodus 30:34-38. This whole support system ran with flawless efficiency, all to maintain the sanctity of the temple. It was a world of divine purpose, a microcosm of a nation in perfect harmony with its creator. Yet just over the hill, another vastly different world was taking shape, a world of silk, spice, and political intrigue. We must now turn our eyes from the house of God to the house of the king, specifically to the gilded chambers of Solomon's harem, where the fate of the kingdom was being shaped in ways far more complex and dangerous than anyone could imagine. All right, now we must take a short walk from the sacred hill of the temple to the opulent grounds of the royal palace. It's here that we find the most complex and ultimately the most dangerous part of Solomon's kingdom, his harem. Now, it's easy to let our minds run wild with images of pure indulgence, but we have to look deeper with spiritual wisdom. The harem was not primarily about pleasure. It was the ultimate political chessboard. The Bible tells us in 1 Kings 11:3 that Solomon had 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines. Think about that. 1,000 women. Every single one of these women, especially the wives, represented a political treaty, a strategic alliance with a foreign nation. This was Solomon's foreign policy, a way to create peace not with armies, but through marriage vows. It was a display of incredible political wisdom, but it was a worldly wisdom, a stark and dangerous departure from the divine wisdom that built the temple. Inside the walls of the harem, a complex and rigid society existed. This was a city within a city, run with its own laws and a strict hierarchy. At the very top was the daughter of the Egyptian pharaoh, for whom Solomon built a separate, magnificent palace, 1 Kings 7:8. Her status was a constant reminder of the political power at play. Below her were princesses from Moab, Ammon, Sidon, and the Hittite kingdoms, a vibrant, swirling mix of cultures, languages, and most importantly, gods. This multicultural environment was managed by a legion of scribes, stewards, and eunuch guards who ensured everything ran smoothly. In these perfumed corridors, the fate of nations could be sealed or shattered based on the favor a woman found with the king. The supernatural wisdom that could build a silent temple was now being redirected to manage this intricate web of human relationships and political ambitions. You see, while Solomon was using the harem to build a wall of political security around Israel, he was unknowingly tearing down the spiritual walls of his own heart. The very tool he used to secure his kingdom from the outside was importing the greatest threats from the inside. Each foreign princess brought her traditions, her customs, and her deities into the heart of Jerusalem, just a stone's throw from the Holy Temple itself. This created a tension, a spiritual friction that would eventually spark a fire. The stage was being set for a colossal battle, not of swords and shields, but of faith and temptation. The intense competition for the king's affection was about to begin, and it involved far more than just beauty. It was a contest of wit, influence, and a mastery of the subtle arts of seduction, as we're about to see. So, let's step past the guards and into the inner sanctum of the harem, into the day-to-day lives of these 1,000 women. To be chosen for a night with King Solomon was the single greatest honor, and it required an entire day of meticulous, ritualistic preparation. This wasn't a simple bath and a change of clothes. It was an art form. We're talking about long, luxurious soaks in 7 different types of perfumed water, followed by massages with expensive oils of myrrh and aloes, a process reminiscent of the purification rituals described in the Book of Esther. Her skin, hair, and clothes would be infused with the most exotic scents, designed to create an unforgettable, almost supernatural aura of allure. This intense focus on the physical was a world away from the spiritual purity of the temple, yet in the harem, it was the primary form of worship, an offering of beauty to the king. But the real battle wasn't fought with cosmetics and perfumes. It was a silent, fierce war of wits and influence. The harem was a hotbed of secret alliances and subtle rivalries. A woman's best friend one day could be her rival the next. Servants were often used as spies, carrying whispers and secrets from one chamber to another. Gifts to the king were never just gifts. They carried a hidden language, a way of communicating a desire or a political agenda. The sharpest tool a woman possessed wasn't her beauty, but her wisdom and her talent. To truly capture the attention of Solomon, the wisest man on earth, a woman had to be more than beautiful. She had to be a captivating conversationalist, a gifted musician, or a clever strategist. This was how they competed for real power, for the influence that came with being a favored confidant of the king. When night fell, the chosen woman would be led to the king's chambers, a space prepared to be a paradise on earth, filled with the soft glow of oil lamps, the scent of rare incense, and the gentle sound of a distant harp. But this encounter was more than just a night of pleasure. It was an audience with the most powerful man in the world. This was her chance to whisper a word in favor of her family, to propose an idea for her home nation, or to simply secure her own position within the complex world of the harem. For Solomon, navigating these nightly encounters, each one laden with personal and political implications, required a supernatural level of discernment. And it is here, in this intimate space, where his great strength began to encounter its greatest weakness, as the lines between love, politics, and faith started to dangerously blur. This, my friend, is where the story takes its tragic turn. For all of Solomon's wisdom, for all the glory of the temple, a seed of compromise had been planted within the harem, and now it began to bear its bitter fruit. The Bible is painfully clear about this. In 1 Kings 11:4 it says, "As Solomon grew old, his wives turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God." The political asset of the harem had become a spiritual liability. The man who started his reign by asking only for wisdom to rule God's people was now allowing the gods of his wives to invade the Holy Land. It began with tolerance. a seemingly diplomatic gesture, but it quickly slid into active participation, a catastrophic betrayal of his covenant with God. Imagine the heartbreaking sight on the hills surrounding Jerusalem, in the very shadow of the magnificent Golden Temple. Solomon began to build pagan altars. He built a high place for Chemosh, the detestable god of Moab, and for Molech, the horrific god of the Ammonites who demanded child sacrifice. He did this for all his foreign wives, burning incense and sacrificing to their gods. The supernatural wisdom that God had gifted him was being poisoned by earthly affections and political pressures. He was trying to keep the peace in his harem, but in doing so, he was declaring war on the God who had given him everything. It's a chilling reminder for all of us that even the wisest and most blessed among us are not immune to a divided heart. And this spiritual decay had very real, very painful consequences for the kingdom. The opulent lifestyle required to maintain the palace, the administration, and a harem of 1,000 women was financially crippling. The burden fell squarely on the shoulders of the common people. Taxes became unbearably high, and Solomon resorted to forced labor to keep his grand projects going, creating a deep and simmering resentment among the northern tribes. The strength and stability, Jachin and Boaz, that the temple was meant to symbolize were eroding from within. The kingdom, once united in purpose, was beginning to fracture under the weight of the king's compromises. How could this happen? How could the wisest man on earth fall so tragically? To understand that, we must uncover the deepest and most dangerous secret of his power. So, we arrive at the great question: how could a man with such divine wisdom fall so completely? To find the answer, we must look beyond the canonical scriptures to the ancient legends that surround Solomon, stories that speak of a secret and dangerous source of his power. According to these texts, Solomon possessed a legendary ring, often called the Seal of Solomon. This was no mere piece of jewelry. Engraved with the sacred name of God, this ring was said to grant him a terrifying and absolute authority over the spiritual realm. It gave him the power to command, bind, and interrogate supernatural beings, both angelic and demonic. This wasn't just wisdom. This was active dominion over the unseen world, a power that could build a kingdom or utterly destroy a man's soul. Ancient texts, like the Testament of Solomon, describe in detail how the king used this incredible power. The legends say that the impossible feats of engineering required to build the temple, the silent quarrying of stones, the moving of massive blocks, were accomplished with the help of these conscripted spirits. The book portrays Solomon interrogating these entities one by one, learning their secrets, and then compelling them to labor for the glory of God. He harnessed their power, forcing them to contribute to the construction of the holiest place on earth. It was a staggering thought. The Holy Temple, a house for the Most High God, was built in part by the forced labor of supernatural beings under Solomon's command, a testament to the sheer scale of his authority. But here is the crucial lesson for us. This power was never meant to be a form of magic or sorcery. It was the ultimate test of Solomon's humility. To wield such supernatural authority without succumbing to pride is a test few could endure. As the influences of the harem grew, it's easy to see how a man might begin to trust the power on his finger more than the God who gave it to him. The ring gave him control over the world of spirits, but the women in his harem gained control over his heart. This dangerous secret reveals the ultimate paradox of Solomon, a king who could command demons but could not command his own passions, leading his magnificent kingdom to the very brink of ruin. The story of Solomon is a powerful and sobering warning for all of us. The wisest man who ever lived shows us that even the greatest divine gifts can be corrupted by a divided heart. So, the question I leave you with is this: what is the greatest strength God has given you, And how are you protecting it from becoming your greatest weakness? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm eager to read what this story has spoken to your heart. If this message has challenged and inspired you, please subscribe to the channel and make sure you ring that bell. You don't want to miss the powerful truths we're uncovering together? And don't leave just yet. A video is popping up on your screen right now that I know will bless you. Click on it, and I'll see you there.